And I mean, it's going to be very interesting. And the Big 12 really is such a mosh pit with BYU and some surrounding teams like Iowa State and Cincinnati that also played this past weekend. And Cincinnati hosted Iowa State, who looked fraudulent against Arkansas State. But then Iowa State really rebounded greatly and then dominated Arizona. So it felt like they kind of got back to where they were towards the beginning of the season, where they beat a ranked Kansas State team and then beat a solid Iowa team. And then they really just didn't show up for a lot of this game. The final score was 30-38, and Cincinnati won. It didn't really feel that close for a lot of the game. They ended up clawing back in, and I mean, you're number 14 in the country, and you had to claw all the way back in. It was a very tough outing for Iowa State, and they've kind of looked fraudulent. So maybe we should have saw this coming because that Arkansas State game was rough, and Arkansas State hasn't even been doing that great as a Group of 5 team. So this is just unfortunate for them. But Cincinnati caught them at home, and maybe Iowa State was looking ahead to some tougher games. But this is very impressive from Cincinnati, Jack.
Yeah, very impressive. I mean, when you look at the scoreboard, that's not how evident of really how the game went at all. It was 31-7 for most of this. Iowa State scored on both sides of the half um, at the end of the first half and then start of the second half because they got the ball back. But this really wasn't close at all. And Cincinnati just kept scoring and it just kept Iowa State out of the game, and they look really good. I know their first week of the season they lost close against Nebraska,
Right.
which I think is a good team. They almost beat Michigan if a couple
Right.
things go their
Yeah.
way. I mean, it did go their way with that Hail
Right.
Mary, but a couple other stuff. But it's hard against Michigan with that rushing attack that they have. We'll get into that later, but yeah, this wasn't close really. We were, again, to your point, we kind of thought of them as kind of a pretender with that Arkansas State game, but we really didn't think too much of it because next week they smoked, or they had a bye week and then they had Arizona.
Right.
So yeah, that Arizona game wasn't close at all. So we kind of thought that was kind of them getting
Right.
back on track there. Um, but yeah, this just shows that Iowa State really wasn't in the game. But I would definitely say look out for Cincinnati for sure in the Big 12 there. And I'm surprised that they are not ranked because when you looked at Virginia last week or a couple weeks ago when they beat Florida State, they immediately got ranked. But when Cincinnati and their loss was NC State um, out of conference because they didn't count NC State um, as a conference game for some reason. I don't know why they don't do that. Um, but Cincinnati loses an out of conference game, and they also don't get ranked. So it's interesting.
Right. And I mean, Cincinnati ends up propelling themselves in that conversation for the Big 12, where I feel like we thought it was going to be a mosh pit early with teams like Kansas State and Arizona State that were at the top. But now it really feels like who's going to play Texas Tech in that Big 12 championship, because Texas Tech has been really surprising, which we'll get to, obviously. But Cincinnati, I feel like they jump into that conversation and knocking off a team like Iowa State that was the top Big 12 team for a little bit until Texas Tech jumped them. It was very impressive. And I know Iowa State had been reeling from that Arkansas State game, but they looked a lot better against Arizona. And they were really doing well for a lot of this game. I mean, they were blowing them out. And I know the final score, they only won by 8, but very impressive win by Cincinnati, Jack.
Yeah, very impressive. And yeah, I know it kind of seems like this is kind of Texas Tech's conference to lose. But I would definitely say they're
Right.
a player for sure, along with like TCU, Arizona State, and Cincinnati for sure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's a very interesting and very competitive conference, and we'll see how much down to the wire it comes. But it really feels like Texas Tech's the favorite. But it's going to be really interesting who ends up playing in that Big 12 championship game.